Great. So now that you have several case studies, you are ready and armed to crush one of the highest ROI beginner platforms out there, which is Upwork. Upwork is the freelance platform of the century where businesses post jobs and freelancers and agencies bid on those jobs. It is by far the number one service marketplace currently available on earth, with billions of dollars transacted on their platform annually. I've made over $1 million over the last few years thanks to Upwork, both directly on their platform and otherwise, and it's a colossal opportunity for automation agencies. I'm going to walk you through it right here. Now, here it is. If I could be as straightforward as possible, I think we all know that Upwork, Fiverr, these freelance platforms, they all typically have poor reputations amongst service providers. Many freelancers will whine about lowball clients, the 10% service fees, race to the bottom competition, all that stuff. This has driven many people to not even consider Upwork as an option or not to consider it like real business leads, but that's a big mistake. The reality is that Upwork contains the warmest, most likely to convert audience you will ever find anywhere. Why? Because these are businesses that have already decided that they need help. The only decision that they need to make now is who is going to help them. In business terms, this concept is called the buying ladder. The distance from the top of this ladder all the way down to the bottom represents how close a deal is to closing. So the distance between here and here, that's a pretty hot lead, right? The distance between here to here, that's kind of like a middle lead. And the distance from here all the way down here, well, that's like a starter lead. That one's going to take some freaking work. The bottom of the ladder features people that are problem unaware. Now, at the bottom of the ladder, you have leads who have a problem but are unaware of it. Let's say somebody that's struggling with lead management because they don't have a CRM, but they don't know that that's why they're struggling with lead management. Maybe they're just super disorganized. They've been running their business forever on pen and paper. They're sort of old school, old tech, and they just don't really know what's going on, but they just know that they can't really seem to grow any more than they're at right now. Now, if you wanted to work with this person to sell them a CRM, what do you think you'd have to do? Well, you must, one, first convince them that, hey, man, you have a problem. You know that you're not growing, right? The problem is your lead management is poor. The second is you have to explain to them that there's a solution to this. You have to say, hey, man, the real reason why this is happening is because your leads are disorganized. And the way to solve it is using an organized CRM, customer relationship management system, that'll take way less time than you're currently spending now and allow you to follow up a lot more consistently. And then the third thing is you have to convince them that finally you are the best provider of the solution, which is a ton of work. So on top of you explaining the problem, which is that their leads suck or their lead management sucks, on top of you explaining the solution, which is that you should use a CRM, it's organized, it's online, everything's fast. Now you have to say, and by the way, I'm the best guy to do it for you. They're in the middle of the ladder are what we call problem aware, but solution unaware. These are people that are somewhere in the middle. Now these middle people are aware of the problem, but they don't know the solution. They're warmer because they're already aware of the problem. They know that their poor lead management is costing them money, but they still don't understand what solution will make that problem go away. So to close a deal with them, you have to convince them that a solution exists and then that you're the best provider of the solution. This is still a lot of work, right? Those are still 2 whole steps that you have to do. Now, the top of the ladder is where the money is, and that's all of the Upwork leads that we have access to. These are leads that are aware of the problem. They're also aware of the solution. The only thing that you need to explain to them is that you exist. They're super warm because they're already aware about the problem and the solution. They'll know that their lead management sucks, and they also know the solution is a CRM. The only thing they don't know is who is going to solve it for them. So to close these people, the only sell that you have to give them is, hey, I'm just better than that guy over there. That's basically it. Now, if you're using cold email, if you're using communities, if you're using ads, virtually every other type of sales method, you're going to get a variety of leads at different stages of the buying ladder, all over here. But if you're using Upwork, you're basically only ever presented with leads in that third category I just mentioned, the ones at the top of that buying ladder. These leads have already decided they want to move forward. All they're really doing is just selecting the right person to do it for them. This is great for us because we don't have to do any of the hard work of convincing them that they have a problem. We don't have to do any of the hard work of telling them how amazing the solution is. All we have to do is convince them that of the people that you are looking at, I'm just the best one to give it. And that is about as straightforward a sale as you could possibly get. Now, mathematically, this will never come for free because Upwork itself is providing you a service here. It's wrangling up all those leads that are at the top of the ladder. It's formatting them, organizing them, and making them available to you. Thus, you have to pay for it. 10% of the closed deal size, usually, and a certain amount of money every time you will bid on a job. But this is peanuts compared to the total cost of acquiring a lead by other means. This 10% includes payment processing fees, which would otherwise be 3%. It includes an escrow service, which, it's a couple percent. A lot of the time you have to pay flat, but let's just say it's another 3%. So in reality, Upwork's take is usually about 5% or so. If you're spending 5% of your whole budget on the marketing, it's extremely affordable. Many other lead generation methods like ads will routinely cost businesses 15 to 25%. In Upwork's case, you're only paying that cut when you actually win a job, which is crazy. So that 5% doesn't even factor into things if you don't win that job. There are, of course, other fees like applications that will cost you usually about $1 or $2 every time you bid on a job, but this is still much more affordable, and you're not going to find an easier place to get your first client than Upwork. Upwork is by far the simplest because the only people you really have to worry about are people at the top of that buying ladder, and the only case you have to make for yourself is, hey, I just happen to be better than all these other people. That's it. Now, what is our task? Very simple. We just need to stand out from the crowd. That's it. Since the decision our leads will be making isn't what's the problem or solution, just, hey, who do I happen to have do this for me? The only thing we're going to worry about is just making you very attractive, and much more so than other freelancers. And everything we're going to talk about today is going to be focused on that. So the question here is, how do I actually go about setting up my Upwork profile? Great news for you. Upwork's interface is constantly changing, as in every few days or so. So I can't really record a dedicated video setting up an Upwork profile. I'm also just the same guy, and I can't set up 50 Upwork profiles for myself. But making a profile is very straightforward since Upwork is incentivized to make it super easy. If you go to upwork.com and you go sign up, it'll ask if you want to be a client or a freelancer. And the onboarding process here is by far one of the smoothest onboarding processes I've ever been a part of. They're incentivized to make it great because obviously you're going to get on their platform and then make them and yourself a ton of money. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through a list of growth hacks that I've accumulated over the years that will help you stand out from 95% of the rest of the freelancers on the platform. These growth hacks are psychological techniques. They are tweaks to your game. They're copywriting hacks and their automated systems. And each of them give you a few percent here and a few percent there. When you add them all up, you become unstoppable. Now, I mentioned here that, and it looks like I left this section copied for whatever reason. What I'm going to do is walk you through by far the first and most important section, the profile copy. Now, the first and most important lever that you could pull to succeed on Upwork is obviously the profile copy. Your copy is the biggest weapon you have in the arsenal, specifically the first 100 characters or so. If you're unfamiliar with how this looks, let me just open up my Upwork for you. Head over to my profile, just give you a quick little walkthrough. So the section I'm referring to over here is just this section right over here. This is your profile copy. This is sort of like where you make your case for yourself. As you can see, I've had multiple different profiles over the years, and one for article writing about 2 years ago, and more recently one for marketing automation. But the tips that I'm going to apply for you here are going to work regardless. So your copy is the biggest weapon. The great news is the majority of the other freelancers on Upwork suck at copywriting. They are garbage. They're not marketers, they're not salespeople, and they're certainly not copywriters. What they do is design stuff, build systems, provide advice, consult, but they really do tend to blow at selling their services, which is awesome. This is why earlier today we wrote about case studies, because I've read through thousands of Upwork profiles at this point, and the simplest, most foolproof way to write better copy than your competition is just to show a noteworthy accomplishment in your first 100 characters, aka to just have a case study and just put it there. When your competition is saying vague and meaningless bullshit like, I'm great and I provide ChatGPT and Make.com services, yours is going to say stuff like, hey, I've driven $453,100 in revenue with an automated email systems in the last 3 months. Or, hey, I built automations for Facebook. Or, hey, I've scaled an e-commerce company to $40,000 with AI and ChatGPT. What I've come to realize is the thing that actually distinguishes people from each other is not, hey, here's a list of services I provide. It's, here's what I've done before. And that's what we're going to take advantage of. Below, I have a bunch of examples that you can model your own profile around. Now, if your page looks a little bit different from mine, I just have dark mode on, hence why my background on Upwork was gray when I took these screenshots, or dark, basically black, I should say. Yeah, this is the same section as the one that we see right over here. So this one here is AI developer and process automation engineer, Make, Zapier, GPT-4, Node, specializes in marketing automation for $117.50. Hi, I'm Nick. I built systems that have made millions of dollars to 7- and 8-figure agencies. I also run one of the most popular YouTube channels about Make.com and have been featured in Popular Mechanics, Apple News, and other major publications. I do this with a variety of cutting-edge tools like GPT-4, DALL-E 2, Make, Zapier, and Node. Wow, that sounds really impressive. This is the vibe that you're going for. We have another one right over here: marketing automation, SMM automation, sales BD automation, AI CRM. This person is a veteran marketer who's worked with top tier companies like Visa, Lenovo, Discord, NZXT, Fellow, and others. Insane social proof. Over my career, I've generated millions of dollars in profit, like 3 million for NZXT, created millions of customers, like 1 million at Discord, and have a consistent track record of crushing growth goals. If you scroll through this, you will see a couple of things come up again and again and again. And that is that somewhere in the first 100 and 150, I don't know how many characters that window is, but somewhere in that first section, you just have a bunch of social proof. If your company used to work with Microsoft or something, or I don't know, you just have some association where maybe with the government or the city, or if one of the companies you work with later on ended up being sold or went public. These are all things that you should mention here because these are the things that make you stand out. Some clear takeaways: just make sure that your main case studies fit above the More button. That's this button right over here. So people will see what's important without having to necessarily click super deep into your profile. You should also add multiple services in your title. Notice how all of these are like multiple. It's not just process automation engineer. It's process automation engineer, Make, Zapier, Airtable, GPT-4 Node. The reason why is because this helps you look like more of a match when people are scrolling through applications. It's also better for like keyword optimization, which Upwork does a little bit of. And then just front load with the biggest names you have, the most unique identifiers you have, just the best social proof on planet Earth. After you are done with that section, if somebody were to click this button, it would unfold the More section. And this section is a lot less important. The vast majority of people don't really give a crap. So as long as you have something above the fold, that's great. More is fine. It's totally up to you, and I haven't found much of a difference. Here's mine as an example. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Nick. I've built and scaled numerous companies to 7 figures using a variety of cutting-edge tools like GPT-4, Stable Diffusion, Make, Zapier, and Node. I've created dozens of systems, many of them responsible for hundreds of thousands in revenue and or savings. My favorites include Bang, 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 Bang. I also have experience with more or less every CRM or project management tool like Monday, Asana, Trello, ClickUp, Airtable, Keep, Salesforce, etc. And I built up dozens of custom API integrations for added functionality. So you can tell this part's a mouthful. Very few people are actually going to make it to that point. Anyway, I will make use of 1 or 2 emojis to stand out, but just be careful with the emoji usage because a lot of people spam them, makes their emails look shitty. The next area that you can improve is this profile picture. This is a small hack that will take you less than 5 minutes to do, but it's going to improve your reply rate significantly. I probably made well over $50,000 at this point just because I had a profile that stood out and increased my conversion rate by a few percent. But this is more or less what you're looking for. You're looking for a headshot that's reasonably close, but not so close up that people could see your pores, usually about like nipple level and up, something like that. And then you want like a nice colorful background, ideally where the colors don't exist in real life. So this bright yellow rarely exists in real life. The only time you see it is staring at the sun, which nobody ever does. You could use like teal, cyan, you could use violet, you could use just something that grabs the eye, and you'd be fine. The logic here is that the average Upwork job receives a couple dozen applications. So, if somebody puts a job out that says, hey, I want somebody to build a CRM for me, you're going to be competing with like 20, 25 other people realistically. The great news is most of the other 20 to 25 people just have the exact same profile picture. It's usually like a pretty close up with like a sort of blurryish background. So the simplest way to stand out is just replace your background with a bright, unnatural color. And there are a variety of ways you can do this creatively, but I just pump my profile image into Canva. I'll remove the background and then I'll add whatever colors I find most eye-catching. The last thing I'll mention on this is I typically don't like being super businessy, so I don't wear like a suit and tie or whatever. I just sort of go business casual, so I usually wear a button down. Totally up to you, of course. Depends on your target market as well, but just thought that I'd point it out. All right, the third little growth hack here is rate. The vast majority of people are going to price flat rates that make it obvious that you just pull that number out of your ass, kiddo. It's going to be $50 an hour or $60 an hour or $100 an hour, that sort of thing. But these are silly because when you use a flat number like this, the first thing that's going through most people's minds when they're looking to hire a service provider is, how does that person know that they're worth $50 an hour? How are they not worth 48 or 52? Like what mathematical process did they have to go through to get to 50? Kind of feels like the person put no thought into it. And when they feel that you put no thought into your rate, this will lead to more negotiations and a much lower reply rate. Since everyone else is doing this as well, the client's eyes tend to scan over these flat-looking numbers when they're looking to hire. What I do to beat this is I pick extraordinarily specific numbers like 6346 or 7402 or 102.89 or 117.63, 117.50, just various numbers that don't necessarily all end with like a 1000000. The reason why is because it makes people pause for a brief second and consider what the logic might be behind that number. The more that they pause, the longer that they're looking at your profile, and just the more digital real estate that you are occupying compared to the other freelancers that are bidding on the same job. It also reduces the likelihood of a negotiation because now people are thinking, oh, okay, this person has an exact number and they probably have a very valid process that they use to get there. And this just makes you stand out because everyone else is just going to have some multiple of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 500, that sort of thing. Now, this probably sounds simple, but like the previous hack, I'm estimating I made at least $50,000 because of this. The difference in my profile when I implemented this rate and then this profile picture was basically night and day. Conversion rate was much, much higher, at least doubled. The last thing is fill out everything Upwork allows you to. Upwork, being a platform that is attempting to stay ahead of the curve, is constantly testing new features to see which ones are working, which ones don't, which ones yield better results for clients, which ones match them with nicer freelancers, and that sort of thing. To that end, they usually launch new profile sections, and then they weight profiles that don't have those features filled out more highly than profiles that do. So if you don't fill out an optional profile section, and I realize my camera's off here, I'm just turning it on again, it's going to hurt your rank and search results, oftentimes like pretty intensely. This is beyond me. I have no idea why people don't fill out everything. It's 100% free. It takes like an hour or so, and it gives you many more chances to rank higher in search results. So I'd highly encourage you to do this. As of the time of this writing, the sections I commonly see people leave blank are as follows. A lot of the time people will leave their introductory video section blank. That's on the left-hand side of your profile. It's just a brief 30-second video that introduces you to the prospective client. All you really do is you just read those first 150 characters or so. You just do it on camera just like I'm doing right now. Hi, my name is Nick. I've run X, Y, and Z for these businesses. I routinely generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for other businesses. That's it. Goodbye. Very straightforward. All you need to do, or all that I would do, is I'd publish this on YouTube as unlisted. And then because it's unlisted, people will only see it if they have a direct link. You can then copy that link and just paste it into Upwork. Problem solved. Another section that people commonly leave blank is certifications. Upwork will let you import certs from other platforms. None of your prospects are going to give a shit, but your Upwork algorithm will. They're going to care a lot. Basically, the more filled out your profile is, the higher they're going to rank you regardless. It's sort of like a multiplier. Like if somebody has the whole profile filled out, we'll multiply his ranking by 2. We'll make it twice as good. Now, the simplest ways to get yourself some certifications are taking a course called the HubSpot Inbound Certification, which I included a link for right over here, and then just importing that into Upwork. When you do, you're going to get a nice pretty picture that's going to look just like this, and it's just going to make your profile a little bit more fleshed out than it probably is right now. As you can see, you can also add other certifications that you've received that are outside of HubSpot, outside of Upwork, outside of Credly, which is their authorization feature. All you need to do is just when you click on this little button up here, just click Add manually. Another thing that I usually see people leave blank is their language and education section. So even if you don't have a degree, you should always fill out your language. You should always fill out your education. This can be secondary school, post-secondary school, whatever. If you don't have a degree, just don't put out that you've received the diploma, but still still show people that you've gone there. Regarding the language, you should know that English is by far the most popular platform on Upwork. If you're a native English speaker, please make sure to put that. If you're working on English or you haven't fully mastered it, I recommend spending between 20 to 30 minutes every evening for the next few months doing so. Most of the business world and most of the business world's resources are now in English, so understanding it will definitely give you a significant advantage. There's really just no two ways about it. I recommend that you become as close to a native English speaker as humanly possible. All right, what now? Well, once you make it to this point, you now know everything you need to craft a strong Upwork profile. If I were you, I'd go and I'd actually create that profile. Make sure to fill out everything you can. Employ the strategies and growth hacks I mentioned above to make yourself stand out. And then once you are done with said profile, post a screenshot of that profile to school along with a link. Screenshot it just like I did over here, where you see, this little bubble here with the show public view, my profile pic, the badges that I may have, the titles and that sort of deal. And then, share it with the group. This is the first thing your leads are going to see. And so I want this to be the thing that we care about optimizing the most and see as well. Just title it Roast My Upwork Profile, something like that, and we'll give you advice. And that's it. Congrats. You finished day 2. Tomorrow, we're going to develop your application templates. We're also going to join some communities. And then the next day, you're actually going to start talking to real customers. Within like 3 or 4 hours, maybe 5 hours of you starting this program and doing diligent work, you are literally going to be putting yourself in front of people that have thousands or tens of thousands of dollars that they may or may not be willing to pay you. So quite the accomplishment. As usual, I suggest pausing here and we'll pick this up tomorrow. Thanks so much.